Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga is a game that we've been waiting for what feels like a decade at this point. It's actually closer to a decade and a half now, and even with it being released after all these years, and after spending some 40 hours completing it and exploring the brick-filled galaxy conceived by George Lucas all those years ago, it still feels a little uncanny, almost like it's all just a manic fever dream that I've yet to wake up from. Without further ado, I'm Xeniverse, and welcome to my first actual review. That's right, these videos don't fucking matter, they're not even real. Developed by John Traveler Tales and originally revealed during the Microsoft conference at E3 2019 and having already been in development since late 2017. This game was shaping up to become Traveler's Tales' biggest release yet, and naturally, this came with several woes for the studio. The first one of these being that this game was being developed in an engine made for the Skywalker Saga. The Entity engine was supposed to become TT Games' whole new engine for the foreseeable future. However, swapping engines right before undertaking the biggest project in the studio's history proved to be quite challenging, since many of the people at the studio were very unfamiliar with it, especially after spending close to Are you fucking kidding me? Right, where were we? Especially after spending close to 15 years developing over 24 games in the new 2 engine and all of its different variants throughout all the different console generations and eras of LEGO video games, going all the way back to 2005's LEGO Star Wars the video game. Entity turned out to be incredibly difficult to use in the company, with animations taking hours more to produce than they would take on the old engine. This would result in many employees pushing to use Unreal Engine, as well as a heavy emphasis on crunch time work hours and 2 delays, one from fall 2020 to spring 2021, and then another pushing it back to spring 2022, with the eventual release date becoming April 5th, 2022. All of these issues even led to complete abandonment of the Entity engine, with the studio finally deciding to use the Unreal Engine for all projects going forward. The gameplay of the Skywalker Saga is everything I expected and wanted. This might sound a little rambly, because there is just so much shit I want to point out and touch on. I don't even know where to begin really. The game includes all 3 film trilogies, giving the player the option to start with the prequels, the original saga, and the ones that aren't canon. As soon as you get past the first introductory part of the Phantom Menace, you're entirely free to do whatever you want, go wherever you want, and be whoever you want. The levels have become less jarring in terms of how they flow now, with you getting to experience the movies in its entirety, whether that be in the many hub worlds or inside of the actual normal levels. The game includes 24 planets for you to explore and just generally fuck about in. These are divided in on planet locations and the surrounding airspace. You can freely fast travel between any planet you've unlocked after visiting them during the main story. Or if you care about realism, you can even just fly from star system to star system, No Man's Sky style. Each one of these planetary hub areas includes a variety of puzzles and side missions specific to that location. Some of the side missions can take you to other planets, while others may lead you into more missions. Then there's the trials, which are challenge-based missions. These can be shooting galleries, time trials, and shooting galleries in space! Lastly, there's challenges. These are little collectible-based missions, ranging from fighting and talking to a wandering Wookiee, freeing rebels out of ice on the hot base, and saving the porks from going extinct, with much chagrin. A majority of the collectibles in the hub worlds are gated off, because you either haven't unlocked a character from a specific class yet, or you just can't change characters at this current time. Oh yeah, there's fucking character classes now. These classes being Jedi, Hero, Scavenger, Scoundrel, Bounty Hunter, Villain, Darkside, Astromech, and Protocol Droids. There's also extra characters which don't fit into any class. Jedi and Darkside are rather self-explanatory. Hero and Villain are the characters that appear throughout the story and show up on their respective sides. Bounty Hunters and Scoundrels are basically the interesting versions of good and bad guys, with each class also having some unimportant but appreciated additions. Scavenger are half a dozen Ewoks and 17 different versions of Rey. The droids are split between their respective uses, and a good way to determine which are the stand-uppy ones and which are the R2-D2 ones, as well as that one orange testicle called BB-8. Extra characters are fun additions that appear throughout the story and world. The game also features a wide variety of skill trees, starting with the core tree and a tree specific to every character class in the game. Some notable upgrades are Hero and Villain characters being able to bypass terminal minigames, Scoundrels gaining the ability to do a combat role, and Bounty Hunters being able to change their burst fire weapons into burst fire shotguns, turning any shooting range challenge into a complete cakewalk. Each of the 45 levels comes with their own set of 3 challenges and 5 minikits. The minikits are once again built up into a mini fighter, much like in the complete saga. The level challenges range from doing something within a specific amount of time, or completing an action a number of times, and can make for a fun little distraction from the main grind that is trying to get 100% in this game. On top of the new system to pick and choose episodes, they changed the combat system to include more thrilling gameplay than just pressing the attack button. Now players are able to use heavy, light, and jump attacks to string together a series of combos, rewarding the player with extra stats for completing a combo. They also turned the Lego game into one of the best third-person shooters of the year, which was entirely unexpected. Headshots are instant kills and troopers wearing helmets have extra protection against them. There's even unique interactions between 2 characters if you have them as active in the same party. Some of my favorites include Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darth Maul.
Maul, you look taller than the last time I saw you.
This Annoying Child and Darth Vader.
Whoa, that's a cool suit. Where can I get one of those?
Patience, child. Patience.
And Han Solo and Jabba the Hutt.
Now you just hold on. My debts are all settled. Not my fault you couldn't keep a hold of me.
As always, you can play the whole game on your own or with a friend. Unfortunately, I don't have any friends, so I'll pass this off to my English friend and seasoned knife attack survivor, Ethan.
LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga from a co-op perspective changes how you play and see the game. The main gameplay difference you'll notice is that combat and puzzles go by faster. Depending on your perspective, this can be a good or a bad thing. If you don't like the combat, you can get through with it faster. And if you don't like the puzzles, somebody else can do them. And it can be really helpful if you're trying to get through the game quickly. If you're more like me and you really enjoy the combat, the sped up encounters can get a little frustrating as you have less time to play around with the new combat system. Not that it's especially deep, but I find it to be quite satisfying to play. As for how each episode plays from a co-op point of view, it varies from a really good co-op experience to an incredibly shit one. In order of release, episode 4 through 6 offer a really fun co-op experience, because let's face it, of course they do. You don't face many flaws in how the system functions, and despite not offering a tutorial for player 2, I guess they can just watch player 1's screen. Episode 4 in particular is great in how it shows you the ropes of co-op. Very quickly it teaches you the simple shooter mechanics that you will need for the rest of the game. You're introduced to puzzles and which character types can perform certain tasks. Episode 5 and 6 follow with the same trends, but introduces you to lightsaber combat. While playing co-op, you may find it better if one player deals with the combat and the other deals with the other tasks such as puzzles and construction, which allows you to move through the levels quicker. Episodes 1 through 3 change the game in terms of setting, what characters you play as, and the types of enemies you fight. In episode 1 you experience an entirely different way of combat when playing with 2 saber characters. One thing you'll discover rather quickly is certain attacks aren't particularly precise and you may wind up accidentally killing your friend. Or maybe it wasn't an accident and you just wanted to make it look like one. You fucked up bastards. This accidental murder of your best friends becomes much more noticeable, especially in boss fights. Rather than occasionally crossing sabers while battling a storm of droids, you're fighting a single target. This means that you can often find yourselves doing more damage to each other than the boss, which can be pretty frustrating, and the only way around that really is both of you lightsaber throwing your boss until it dies, which is kind of boring, but it's funny. Though I find that tactic in single player to be pretty useful too, which is a flaw with the boss fights in general in my opinion. But hey, it's a kid's game, and as you can hear from my voice, I'm not a kid. That or I hit puberty when I was in the womb. We'll get more onto boss fights in a minute. Where the prequels excel co-op wise would be the humour, which shouldn't be surprising given this trilogy is the funniest one of the bunch. Often unintentionally, it's practically a meme factory before it became Lego. Space combat and travel doesn't change much when you add co-op besides only having access to half the screen. Oftentimes the game will give each player their own ship, which in the vast emptiness of space, where no one can hear the screams of your victims, works brilliantly. Occasionally the game will put you in a situation where one player flies and the other player mans the ship's weapons, but this is actually designed quite well, since the way it's designed forces you to cooperate and assist each other in hitting your targets while also avoiding incoming sources of damage. And considering that the whole point of co-op is cooperation, that's a good thing. Now on to where the co-op experience does become rather problematic. Boss fights, as hinted at earlier. Boss fights can be a bit of a pain. The boss fights in the prequel era can actually be quite jarring with the accidental murder of one another, but once you get a feel for when one player should attack and the other shouldn't, the problem gets solved rather quickly. The main issue you'll experience in boss fights would be the feeling that they were designed for a single player experience and they slapped a co-op system on top of it. This is extremely apparent in Episode 3's final boss fight on Mustafar, where one player gets control of Obi-Wan to fight Anakin, while the other has R2-D2 and C-3PO. Who the fuck thought that was a good idea? The game tries to involve the droids by offering some puzzles to progress, but this ends up feeling boring and ruins the pacing. The worst part of this boss fight is towards the end, where all the droid player can do is float way above the battle between Obi-Wan and Anakin. They are in fact so high up you can barely see the action. Old Lego Star Wars games did this way better. One of you would play as Anakin and you'd basically scrap each other, which was honestly fantastic. Playing as a droid is just silly in a moment like that. The best boss battle to co-op was the Luke vs Vader fight in Episode 6. This boss battle is excellent because TT Games couldn't shoehorn in a second character in this fight, so to solve the issue, player 2 becomes the boss. This is perfect because it manages to put both players in a position where they are actively engaged and are given the perfect chance to duel each other, much like how the original old Star Wars games did in that Anakin and Obi-Wan fight. The only difference you'll notice in this battle is that player 2 has a boss health bar rather than a regular one, but if you're a god tier gamer, like I'm certainly not, this won't be an issue at all. The co-op has some extra scuff on the side as it appears to provoke glitches, which is hilarious, but all in all it can be fun. It's just a shame that at times it doesn't feel like much more than just an afterthought. With all that covered, let's talk story.
Wait, story? Really?
Yeah man.
Doesn't everyone already know this one?
Yeah man, it's good for runtime.
Oh, alright then. Wait, why are you wearing my suit? Alright, since you already know the story, I'll be ranking each one of the episodes by how good the levels are. With that being said, let us begin. In last place, episode 8, The Last Jedi. Let's be honest here, everyone saw this coming. Shit fucking movie and the Lego comedy can only carry you so far when I physically roll my eyes when I'm reminded of characters' sheer existence. Phasma is a joke, Luke is ruined, Hux is nerfed into the core of the fucking earth. Fuck this film and everything related to it. Dameron's Defiance is pretty good because most of the flying levels in this game are actually really good. A lot better than the clunky stuff we got in the complete saga. The second level, Master Code Breakout, is just a needlessly long puzzle. No Snoke without fire is just a fight against a bunch of faceless, nameless guys in red that I don't care about. I don't really care about the characters we're playing as in this one either, so I'm not really invested. Chrome Dome Down has the second to worst boss fight in the game, period. All you do is shoot Phasma with a cannon and drop some ADSTs on her head. And Ground Assault features the worst fucking boss fight, where you fight against Kylo Ren by dodging his attacks. This deals damage to his ego? What the fuck is going on? That being said, the Canto Bight and Temple Island locations are pretty cool, as is the mirror puzzle game and the Pogues. God, I fucking love Pogues. In 8th place, episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker, my bad. A skip and a jump is a pretty cool vehicle mission, recreating that iconic lightspeed skipping scene from the movie, where you jump around the universe, which is pretty cool. It's also got Cloud, who is, objectively speaking, the best character in Star Wars. They Fly Now is a vehicle mission, but they forgot to add in the part where you actually control a vehicle. C-3P Oh No takes place on the snowy planet of Kijimi to meet Zuri Bliss, one of the worst characters in Star Wars, as well as factory resetting C-3PO. The strength to do it sees us travel to the crashed Death Star from episode 6 and fight Kylo Ren in 3 locales. It's cool enough, and the crashed Death Star makes for some fun post-story exploring. Also, who the fuck made this animation and thought it was okay? The game's final level, Be With Me, has us take on another group of faceless, nameless guards. It's just a reskin of episode 8's Praetorian guard fight, and it's also bad! The location is at least a little cooler, with this one taking place on the planet of Exegol, which is one of the coolest locations in the game. This episode also has 2 of the best characters in Star Wars in it, these being Cloud and Babu Frick of course. In 7th place, episode 2, Attack of the Clones. A Wrestle with Wessel is a remake of the complete saga's Bounty Hunter Pursuit level, which really needed it seeing as it's a complete fucking mess. Completing this also leads to unlocking one of the coolest open world locations in the game, the seedy Coruscant Underworld, made up of a collection of neon lit, crowded and cramped streets with gloomy nightclubs and shady vendors all around. Very cool. The Hunt for Django is another space level, where you square off against the universe's biggest sperm donor. It's fine enough, but overstates its welcome just a little. Droid Factory Frenzy takes place on Geonosis. It also runs more like a PowerPoint presentation rather than an actual video game, on a 2080 Ti, and I wasn't even the only one having this issue. What you're seeing are not screenshots, this is my actual footage. Petranaki Panic is a remake of the Complete Saga's Jedi Battle level. This is the one that takes place in the Geonosian Colosseum. The Colosseum is a lot bigger this time, but there's way less droids and Jedi scattered around. You fight all 3 of the beasts before taking on Jango Fett again, before then leading into this episode's best level, Battle of the Jedi. Sees you take on Count Saruman with Anakin, Obi-Wan, and everyone's favorite little green gremlin, Yoda. You can swap in between the former two, and Yoda's fighting style is still just absolutely insane. 6th place goes to episode 7, The Force Awakens. This episode's first level sees Poe and Finn escape the New Order Star Destroyer. It's a pretty short one, but it does have this pretty cool part where you can make your way onto a higher floor and skip your way past most of the enemies in the level. Low Flying Garbage is the 2nd level of this episode. It's another flying one and it's an absolute banger, maybe the best one in the entire game. You're flying around this ship graveyard in Star Wars' most iconic ship, the Millennium Falcon, taking on a group of TIE fighters before flying through the debris of a crashed Star Destroyer right after. Reap What Ye Solo sees you escape from Han Solo's barge. It's a pretty long-winded level, with every part of the ship looking very samey. Starkiller Queen is definitely the low point of this episode. It starts with you taking out a couple of dozen stormtroopers before then facing off against the Chrome Captain herself. She's not so much of a boss in the classic sense, as she just walks around the hallway, waiting for you to create a trap for her to idiotically walk into. This episode's last level, destroying Starkiller, is just a boss fight against Kylo Ren. First fighting him with Finn, having him turn invincible, and then restarting a game before defeating him with Rey. Overall it's pretty good, but it feels a little too similar to that standalone Force Awakens game from a few years back, if anyone even remembers that one. 5th place goes to episode 6, Return of the Jedi. This episode starts off with C-3PO, R2-D2, and an undercover Leia sneaking into Jabba's palace to free Han from his carbonite jail. There's some neat new ideas in this episode, like this floor puzzle, and mind controlling Bib Fortuna so you can play as him. The level ends with a boss fight against a Rancor, which is pretty damn cool since it's the only time we get to take on an opponent that's considerably larger than us in size. It's a real shame he stands AFK in a corner for half the fight. The next level takes place near the Sarlacc Pit. It's a larger scale version of the Complete Saga's Great Pit of Carkoon level. This one, however, takes place entirely on Jabba's larger cargo skiff, rather than on the small escort skiffs. It's also the only one to feature 3 entire boss fights, one against Boba Fett on land and in the air, one against Jabba's personal little creature, Salacious Crumb, and a final one against my favorite Star Wars character, Jabba the Hutt, who now comes with a lot more tongue. Level 3, Enter the Line, is just a full remake of Complete Saga's Speeder Showdown. And it's honestly just as boring. You just ride around in a circle on the speeder bikes, shooting X amount of enemies until a cutscene plays. We then unlock a pretty cool hub area, this being the Ewok village. Too bad it also runs like absolute shit. The 4th level in this movie is one entirely centered on playing as Chewbacca and the Ewoks against the Empire as they assault the planets. It also gets you familiar with the Scavenger class's 3 main skills that I mentioned during an earlier segment. It's a fun level and it ends in this pretty cool ATST part. The final level is of course none other than the Luke vs Vader fight. It's a pretty bog standard fight before ending with Luke and Vader teaming up to defeat Palpatine by reflecting his Force lightning back at him. 4th place, Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, which first level takes place an entire half an hour after starting the game. We fight our way through the Trade Federation's capital ship and go down to the surface of Naboo before traveling to the Gungan City, which is one of the first locations we get to fully explore. It's also an absolute maze of an area. Our first level is A Bigger Fish, which is a vehicle mission off the get-go, in which we get to take on a variety of Subnautica rejects. It's fine enough on its own, but it feels just a little strange to pick this one as the first level. We then travel to Tatooine, where we find our 2nd level, the Boonta Eve Classic, which is a complete remake of Complete Saga's Mos Espa pod race level. So, we beat their competition by turning their racers into flaming wrecks. I then had a cutscene bug happen, and upon restarting the game, all of the lightsaber hilts have turned invisible. This led to some pretty hilarious scenes in the next level, which just so happened to be the one where you fight Darth Maul. This level also helps you get familiar with the different types of moves you can do in lightsaber duels, ranging from regular attacks to dodges to blocking. Truly the Dark Souls of Lego games. Some 10 to 15 minutes later, we once again failed to change Star Wars canon, but hey, at least we hit a pretty neat trick shot. The next 2 levels are ones that are entirely absent from the Complete Saga. these being the Battle of Naboo and the space battle against the Trade Federation blockade. Both of these levels are pretty damn good in my opinion, especially the part where you get to rain hellfire onto the attacking droid army. So yeah, fight fish, fly ships, race speeders, even Martincitopants makes an appearance.
Gentlemen.
Crazy stuff. In third place, we'll find our last prequel, Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. Episode 3 is essentially just a boss rush mode, just like the movie it's based on. 1 minute you're decapitating Count Dooku inside the Trade Federation's capital ship, and the next one you're systematically removing Grievous's limbs before capping him. This is also the only episode that doesn't have a level with a heavy emphasis on vehicles. We then travel to Kashyyyk, kill some robots and save some teddy bears before then traveling to Coruscant in order to find Donald Trump. This is a pretty cool fight, with it being one of my favorites from the entire saga. And of course, the final level of the episode is none other than the legendary Skywalker vs Kenobi fight. It's a complete fucking banger, like always. Overall, it's a pretty solid episode, only downside being that there is no Temple Purge level, and that most of Order 66 is very briefly brushed over. Second place goes to episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. This episode starts off with the mission Hot and Cold, which gives you this incredibly vast and open area to fuck around in, while riding on this adorable Tauntaun. It's very cool. The snow looks so impressive, paired with the ambient wind, puffs of Han's breathing, and beautiful lighting. This is a fucking Lego game? So, we amputate the arm of a Wampa and save Luke before starting the second mission, Assault on Hoth Base, which is a remake of Complete Saga's Hoth Battle, which once again really needed it. Look, Complete Saga's vehicle missions just weren't really all that good, like, ever. We take down a bunch of AT-ATs with the Snowspeeder before then escaping Hoth in the Millennium Falcon, but not before going to Dagobah, traveling to some dirty ass swamp and talking to that funny green goblin from the Teddy Bear planet. The third level is this boring ass mission where you fight off a group of TIE fighters. We then travel to Bespin, the home of this thing. I will never forgive you for this, John. Turns out that it's a trap. But it's fine, because our favorite Aryan child has arrived to fight Space Hitler. Overall, this episode is pretty fucking good, featuring some of the most recognizable moments from the saga. They even kept the actual intensity of the I am your father scene. And finally, in first place, episode 4, A New Hope. As if it really could have been anything else. This episode starts with the brutal, uncensored death of C-3PO and R2-D2. Much darker than any of the other episodes, but I'm quite the fan. So, we fight our way through the frigates before swapping to Luke and this old man. He tells us that he used to be a Jedi, but I think he's just a local crackhead looking for a quick fix. We meet up with Han and Wojtek, the Polish World War II bear, in order to sneak into the Death Star, which has an entirely explorable interior inside of it. My god, this game fucking slaps. We save Leia and leave the Death Star for all of 2 minutes before blowing it up, stopping the Empire and saving the galaxy. For now at least. Great episode, great levels, great design.
Where's my crack?
Mos Eisley open world, Death Star trench run. What more do you fucking need? I had a few bugs occur throughout my playtime, a few even game breaking. I had a black screen which happened during a cutscene, completely locking me in place. Some bosses would turn invincible, Dooku and Kylo specifically, and of course the infamous lightsaber hilt bug. But overall, LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga is the definitive way to experience LEGO Star Wars, to collect stunts and characters, watch the sequels, explore the galaxy, and most importantly, unlock Cloud. So, with this game being released now, and there seemingly not being any semi-decent Star Wars content coming out in the foreseeable future, I truly believe this game to be the end of an era. 8 clouds out of 10. Hey, thanks so much for watching to the end of this video. As always, if you enjoyed, leave a like, a comment, and subscribe, as I have 158 more videos scheduled for release between now and the inevitable heat death of the universe. I'll also be making my way back to Twitch, streaming 3 days a week, every single week. You can give me money and I can spend it on various pieces of plastic. Huge thanks for all the support on the last video. We also hit 3,000 subscribers. Thank you to Ethan, Joe, and Mart for being in this video. I greatly appreciate it. Check out their stuff in the description. I upload every single week, except when I don't. As always, I wish you all the best. I've been Xeniverse. Till next time.
Tonight, finally feeling free and it feels so right. Oh, time to do the things I like. wanna see your princess, everything's alright. Oh, no job but an answer to, ain't a fixture in the palace zoo. No, and since the carbon night's off me, I'm living life now that I'm free.